Okay, I'm going to throw a word at you,
Uh-oh.
and I want you to be honest about the very first image that pops into your head. Don't overthink it. Ready?
I'm ready. Hit me.
The word is matriarchy.
Oh, I know exactly where this is going.
Right. If you are like 99% of the population, your brain just pulled up a very specific file.
Yep.
You probably pictured an island of Amazonian warrior women. Maybe they're in armor, wielding spears, looking very
And
intense.
most importantly, men are either completely absent or they're, being bossed around.
Totally. It's the classic pop culture definition. We think of it as the mirror image of what we have now. If patriarchy is men ruling women, then, well, matriarchy must be women ruling men.
It feels like a zero-sum game.
Well,
It's a gender war, basically.
exactly. And here's where things get really, really interesting. We have a stack of source material today that completely upends that definition.
It does. I mean, it just throws it out the window entirely.
The text we're looking at argues that if you think matriarchy is just about swapping who sits in the big chair, you are missing the entire point.
The whole point. We aren't talking about a battle of the sexes here. We're talking about a fundamental shift in organizational logic.
Organizational logic. I love that phrase. It sounds less like a political rally and more like an operating system update.
That is a perfect analogy. We're looking at the source code of society.
So our mission for this deep dive is to unpack that argument. We're going to look at why the source claims the future isn't about women over men, but about life-centered logic over domination logic.
And we're going to tackle some pretty heavy stuff along the way. We have to explore why woman-only spaces exist, why they're so often misunderstood as, hateful.
When they're actually defensive.
Exactly, and why true equality requires a much deeper integration of values than we're normally used to discussing.
So buckle up. We are going beyond the Wonder Woman stereotypes and getting into the real philosophy of how we organize our world. Let's dive in.
To really get this, we have to start by redefining our terms. The source material makes a crucial distinction right off the bat about history. When we say patriarchy, we usually just think men in charge.
Right. The CEO is a guy, the president is a guy, the statue in the park is a guy on a horse.
That's the visible symptom, the user interface, if you will. But the source asks us to look at the underlying structure.
The code behind it.
Yes. It defines the historical patriarchal power structure, not just by gender, but by its mechanics. It's described as hierarchical, extractive, competitive, and domination-based.
Okay, let's unpack those because those words get thrown around a lot. Hierarchical meaning someone is always above someone else. It's a pyramid.
Correct. It's a ranking system.
Yeah.
And extractive is the engine of that pyramid. Extractive means taking resources from the earth, from employees, from relationships, without putting anything back.
It's the mindset of how much can I get out of this before it collapses?
Exactly. It's a system built on the idea that for one to succeed, another must submit or be used.
It's a zero-sum game. If I win, you lose. And this brings us to the aha moment for me regarding matriarchy. The text points out that in its original anthropological sense, it does not mean women ruling men.
No, not at all. It translates to mother origin, or maybe more accurately for us, life-centered organization. It's not about who holds the power.
It's about what the center of gravity is for the whole society.
Precisely.
I think this is such a vital shift in perspective for you, the listener, to grasp. If we stop thinking about the gender of the boss, and start thinking about the logic of the system.
The whole conversation changes. The source lays out 4 core value shifts that define this life-centered logic.
Yeah, let's go through these. They're like a compass.
Let's do it. These are the pillars of the new operating system.
The first one is care over conquest.
Think about that. Conquest is about expansion, taking territory, imposing will. It's about crushing it.
Yeah.
Care is about tending to what is already there. It's a shift from how much can I get to how well can I nurture this?
And just to be clear, care here doesn't mean soft or weak, right?
Not at all. I mean, bridges stay up because of care. Surgery is an act of extreme care. It's the rigorous work of maintenance and attention.
The second shift is preservation over extraction. This feels huge for our current moment.
It's the difference between seeing a forest as board feet of lumber for this quarter's profit versus seeing it as, a lung for the planet that needs to be kept alive for the next century.
So one takes until it's gone.
And the other ensures it lasts.
Which leads perfectly to the third one, relationship over hierarchy.
In a hierarchy, your value is your rank, VP or intern, up or down. In a relational model, Your value is your connection to the whole. You matter because you are part of the web.
The CEO needs the janitor, and the janitor needs the CEO for the building to even function.
Totally.
And the final one, which I think kind of summarizes them all, continuity over accumulation.
That's the long game. Accumulation is hoarding, gathering as much as possible for yourself right now. He who dies with the most toys wins. Continuity is asking, will this system still work for my great-grandchildren? It's a shift from short-term ego to long-term survival.
So when we line these up, care, preservation, relationship continuity, that is what the source defines as matriarchy. Not a political party of women, it's a value orientation.
But, and this is a big, but this is where people get confused. And the text identifies exactly where that happened.
It's when we interpret matriarchy as gender exclusion instead of that value orientation we just described.
Exactly. If the logic goes something like this, people look at history and say, okay, patriarchal systems, which have been run by men, harm life. They're violent and extractive, therefore.
The only way to stop the harm is to ensure only women hold power.
You got it. It's a logical leap. If A is bad and A is men, then we have to ban A.
I get that logic, though.
Oh, absolutely. But the source argues that's a misunderstanding of the actual problem. If you just swap the gender but you keep the logic of domination, you haven't fixed the system. You've just, changed the players.
However, we can't just dismiss the people who feel that way. And this brings us to a really sensitive part of the deep dive. Why do some people advocate for woman-only systems? Why is there this impulse to say no men allowed?
It's so easy to dismiss that impulse as misandry, just hating men. But the source takes a very empathetic approach here. It argues that this belief usually stems from lived experience, not from hatred.
It's a reaction to history.
Yes. The text lists some heavy drivers for this. It mentions violence, dismissal, systemic imbalance, and a profound lack of safety.
Yeah.
Think about the listener who might have experienced those things. If you have been harmed by a system that presents itself as male-dominated, your immediate survival instinct is to remove the male element.
It's not a political theory at that point. It's biology.
It's a trauma response.
Yeah.
A defense mechanism.
So the source says this belief is defensive, not supremacist.
Precisely. It's not about thinking women are superior beings who deserve to rule. It's about seeking a space where you aren't afraid of being hurt or silenced.
That is a crucial distinction. It changes how you see those arguments. It's not a power grab. It's a panic room.
It is. But, and the expert in me has to point this out, while the impulse is understandable and valid, the conclusion contains a critical mistake.
The conclusion being that excluding men is the solution.
Right. Because, as we touched on, matriarchy isn't about women replacing men. It's about feminine principles replacing domination logic. Which leads us to maybe the most provocative phrase in the entire text.
Oh, I know the one you mean. I read it and had to do a double take. The text says, the deeper idea is that men should be women.
Yeah, I can hear the brakes screeching for some listeners right now. Men should be women. What on earth does that mean?
Right, so let's be super, super clear. The text is not talking about biology here. It's not talking about surgery or literal gender erasure.
No. It's entirely symbolic. The source is using woman and man as archetypes, as ancient codes for sets of values.
Okay.
In this context, becoming woman is a symbolic call for men to integrate feminine capacities and relinquish domination scripts.
Domination scripts. That's a powerful way to put it. Like, men are handed a script at birth that says, to be a man, you must dominate, control, and extract. Don't feel, just conquer.
And this is a call to toss that script in the fire. It's asking men to learn things that have historically been pushed to the feminine sphere, not to become female, but to become whole.
The text actually gives a list of what this looks like for men. I want to read these out because they're so specific. It says, becoming woman symbolically means men integrating, emotional regulation.
Which is huge. Moving away from the stoic, unfeeling statue, explodes when the pressure gets too high. It means processing grief and fear without lashing out.
Next. Care without ownership.
That one stops me in my tracks every time. Care without ownership. Usually in a patriarchal model, if I care for you, I possess you. You are mine.
My wife, my child, my employee.
Right. To care without ownership means to love something while letting it be free. It's stewardship, not possession.
That is profound. It's like being a gardener. You don't own the flower, you just create the conditions for it to bloom.
Beautifully put.
The next one is strength without control.
Again, separating power from domination. You can be strong, a pillar, without needing to control every outcome or person around you.
You can be capable, but choose not to force your will on the room.
Yes. And the last one for men, presence without dominance.
Just being there, taking up space without taking over the space.
Hmm. But the text doesn't stop there. It doesn't just say men need to change. It talks about balance. It discusses what it looks like for women to integrate so-called masculine traits to achieve wholeness.
Because if everyone is just pure flow and care, nothing gets built, right?
Exactly. You risk becoming formless.
Yeah.
The text says women, or the feminine archetype, need to integrate things like agency, boundary, decisiveness, structure.
I love boundary and structure here because sometimes the stereotype of the feminine is that it's just endless, formless giving, the mother who gives until she's empty.
Right. Which just leads to burnout and resentment. The masculine principle of structure provides the container for that care. Think of it like a river. The water is the flow, the care, the life.
But without the riverbank, the structure, the boundary, it's just a swamp.
You need the bank to give direction to the flow.
So the result isn't that everyone becomes the same.
Yeah.
We aren't aiming for a beige, uniform humanity.
No. The result is that when these are combined, balance emerges. Equality comes from integration, not exclusion. It's about every human, regardless of their biology, having access to the full spectrum of human capacity.
Emotional regulation and decisiveness, care and need boundaries.
Exactly.
So if integration is the answer, let's go back to that defensive impulse. Why doesn't the woman-only framework work in the long run? Why can't we just, try that for a century?
The source is very direct about this. It says replacing patriarchy with reverse exclusion fails because it reproduces the same hierarchy it is reacting against.
It's the same shape, just different colors.
Exactly. There's a line in the text that sums it up perfectly. It only flips the symbol.
It only flips the symbol. That really sticks with me.
Think about it. If you have a boot on your neck, it doesn't really matter if the person wearing the boot is a man or a woman.
The problem isn't the gender of the oppressor. The problem is the boot.
The problem is the dynamic of domination itself.
That reminds me of the point about safety. The text says some people equate women with safety. Like, if I'm just around women, I'll be safe.
It's a common assumption. But the source gives us a really necessary reality check here. It says, safety is not guaranteed by gender.
That's a hard pill to swallow if you've been hurt primarily by men. You want to believe there is a safe category of human.
It is hard. But we have to look at the reality. There are women who can be abusive, extractive, and dominating. We've all met them. And there are men who are gentle, protective, and nurturing.
So what guarantees safety then?
The text argues that safety is guaranteed by regulation and ethics, not by chromosomes.
That makes sense. If you build a society on the ethics of care and the regulation behavior, you get safety. If you just ban men, but keep the competitive, extractive mindset,
You'll just end up with women hurting each other. You haven't changed the logic we're serving, you've just changed the management.
So let's talk about the goal. If it's not women ruling the world, what are we aiming for? The text uses the word coherence.
Coherence, not supremacy. Supremacy means one group is on top. Coherence means the system holds together logically and ethically. It makes sense.
And the source outlines 4 pillars of a coherent system. These feel like a checklist. First, it protects life.
Simple, right? But revolutionary. Does this policy, this business, this relationship protect life? If not, it's incoherent. It is fundamentally broken logic.
Second, it honors difference.
This counters the idea that equality means sameness. Coherent system knows we need different strengths, different perspectives. It doesn't try to flatten everyone into a monolith.
The ecosystem needs diversity to survive.
Yes. Third, it integrates polarity.
This goes back to the masculine-feminine balance we talked about.
Right. It doesn't choose one over the other. It integrates them. It allows for both flow and structure, both care and agency. It holds the tension.
And fourth, it rejects the sacrifice of one group for another.
This is the anti-domination clause. In patriarchy or any domination system, someone always has to lose for someone else to win.
The poor lose so the rich can win. Nature loses so industry can win.
A coherent, life-centered system, true matriarchy, refuses that bargain.
It refuses the bargain. That's powerful. It's saying we don't accept that suffering is a necessary cost of progress.
Right. The discussion centers on this ultimate shift. True matriarchal logic doesn't subordinate men. It dissolves the need for subordination altogether.
That's the heavy hitter right there. It doesn't push men down. It removes the ladder entirely.
Yes, if you remove the game of King of the Hill, you don't need to worry about who the king is anymore.
You're playing a different game.
You're playing a game of let's keep the hill alive.
Let's keep the hill alive. I like that. It moves us away from this constant power struggle where we're always looking over our shoulder.
It does, and that's really the core message here. The future isn't women over men. It's life over domination.
It feels like such a relief to frame it that way. It takes the pressure off the gender war aspect and puts the responsibility on all of us to check our own values.
Absolutely. It's less about your gender and more about your behavior. It invites everyone to the table, provided they leave their weapons, their domination scripts, at the door.
So let's recap this journey because we've covered a lot of ground. We started with that fear of female rule, the Amazonian island.
And we move to understanding matriarchy as a life-centered logic. Care, preservation, relationship, continuity.
We acknowledge that the impulse for woman-only spaces comes from a real place of defense and safety seeking, not from hatred.
But we also saw that true safety comes from ethics, not exclusion. And that just flipping the symbol, putting women in charge of a domination system, doesn't solve the problem.
And finally, we looked at the solution. Integration. Men integrating the feminine, women integrating the masculine, all for the sake of a coherent system that protects life.
It's a beautiful vision. And it's a practical one. It's not about utopia. It's about survival. Because, frankly, domination logic is killing the planet. We can't afford it anymore.
So for you listening right now, thinking about your own life, your workplace, your family, your community, the question isn't, how do I exclude the people I don't like?
No. The question is, how do I integrate care over conquest?
I really want you to look for where you can apply that today. Where are you operating from a script of extraction, and where could you shift to preservation?
And if I can leave you with one final thought to chew on, something to really wrestle with after you take off your headphones.
Go for it.
We spend so much energy, so much social media outrage, arguing about who should be in charge, who should be CEO, who should be president,
Right.
man, woman.
It consumes everything.
But if true equality begins only when domination is ended, as the text says, then perhaps we need to stop asking who is in charge and start asking, what logic are we serving?
Because until the logic changes, the face at the top doesn't really matter.
Exactly.
What logic are we serving? That is the question. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
Always a pleasure.
We'll catch you on the next one. Stay curious.